r/ForeverAloneWomen. OK Avocado 464 says, what's your currently relationship with your father like, and do you think it's greatly affected the way you view relationships? I'm currently no contact with my father and have been for 2 to 3 years now. He recently out of nowhere texted me hey out of the blue with zero acknowledgement of how he had forgotten me recent birthday. My parents have practically always been divorced my whole life, and unfortunately my dad could not be bothered to co-parent. The good memories I have with my dad are few and far between and have long faded in my head. I now just see him for the deadbeat he is. I think as part of the reason why my self-esteem is extremely low. I have been trying to work this out in therapy, but I don't think my therapist understands. I'm still very much depressed. My depression's just somewhat high functioning, but I know my self-esteem's to the floor. I think my relationship with my father has kind of gotten me in this mindset that I'm unworthy to be treated a certain way and am used to being treated poorly or forgotten about. Sometimes it really does hurt to see people who have good fathers / talk about having good fathers, since I will admit I'm envious and just really tired of constantly having to be the only person sticking up for myself / caring for myself. But now I guess I'm used to it and have accepted that's just the hand I've been dealt in life. Silvercobweb says, I fully believe my relationship with my father, or lack of one, was a major contribution to my view of relationships. He's completely passive. He hid in his work as an excuse to avoid parenting. He referred to us kids as his wife's kids, even though we are his kids too. He warned me repeatedly, my mother did too, that I shouldn't get married, because then I'll be stuck with someone who hates me. He told me to my face, as a child, that a family is a burden to him and prevents him from living the life he wanted. My parents never exhibited any kind of romance toward each other. They resented each other and wouldn't even hold hands or go on dates. I don't know what it's like for two people to want to be in a relationship together and actually exhibit that toward each other. I've watched my father literally pick everyone else in the room except for me. I've watched him praise other girls my age for the slightest thing, but he puts me down for my achievements. He bitches so much about paying for dinner when we go out to eat that I pay for it. But when he takes my brother and his GF out for dinner, he forks over cash with a smile and not a peep of complaint because he gets to show off. My father taught me that being a husband and father was an unwelcome burden. He made me feel invisible and worthless. I'm 34 and I can't fathom a man showing interest in me. It hasn't happened, so it's not an issue I guess. I can't even picture myself dating because my father made it so clear how unwanted I was. T Sparrow says, my relationship with my father is great. He was an awful husband for my mother and other women, but still a great father. I was for a long time closer to him than to my mother. Simon Cooper's Balsack says, TBH, I have a great relationship with my father. He's a fantastic dad, grandparent, my brother had kids, and husband, and my parents have a wonderful, respectful, and affectionate marriage. So everything can go right, and have no daddy issues, and you can still be a 4. Though maybe he set me up for failure simply by setting the bar so high lol. It's hard to find a guy who could be as faithful, loving, driven, hardworking, and capable as my dad set the example or template for being. Most guys I've met are incredibly lazy, crude, and helpless. Black and Ed Fingertips says, my father and I are no contact now. My whole life he favored my brother any chance he could, did everything possible to avoid actually having to parent, which resulted in my mom always having to be the disciplinarian, and was only ever engaged in conversation if it revolved around him. I finally cut the cord for the last time during COVID. I was working at a grocery store and thus had first dibs on a lot of hard to get items, Lysol wipes, hand sanitizer, etc. I told him I would get him anything he needed. He proceeded to treat me like an online shopping service instead of his daughter. When I called him out on it in person he apologized, but several hours later told me that it hurt his feelings, that I felt I wasn't being treated with respect over text message. I unloaded on him all the crap. r/ForeverAloneWomen. Poopifasechroll says, I feel super gross about still being a virgin at my age. Not sure how to explain it. If I think about the very unlikely scenario of doing it for the first time at this age or older, I know I would feel extremely shy, insecure and embarrassed, and would act accordingly. Now if I was a teenager and would feel like that, I would see it as normal behavior, but acting like that at my age now makes me feel gross. Like I'm still acting like a teenager/child in a raging, rotting body. It just sounds wrong, if not even perverted to me. Like I'm going through age regression, and I'm a sick person who never mentally developed further. Not to mention that I feel like I'm punishing the guy with having to sleep with me anyways, lol. 98 Ziz Throwaway says, I'm 26 and feel a similar way. I low-key don't even want to have sex at this point because of this, not that it's an option anyway, lol. To Firepool Candidate says, I'm 36 so I've learned to accept it. It's not my fault. Yos Fighter says, while I was CSA from age 3 to 14, so 11 years. I still consider myself a virgin cause I never done it consensually. I'd be a blushing fumbling fool trying to figure out sex works, lol. I'm 31. Hot and Cold 1886 says, I'm almost 40 and feel even worse. Yuhomika Koro says, it's so embarrassing. I know I'm still young, 23, but the lack of experience puts a big wall between me and other girls my age. Mavis03 says, I'm 42 and a virgin. It is embarrassing, but not gross or wrong. Don't let the sex-obsessed culture brainwash you into thinking there's something wrong with you. I understand the loneliness and it's natural to desire intimacy. But I strongly believe that any woman could have sex if we lower our standards far enough. You haven't done that, which is a good thing. Certain Interaction 4 says, I no longer feel that shame. Every time I see a married man cheating on his wife or badmouthing her to a younger woman, I thank my good sense for staying the way I was born. Emad says, the good news is that as much as you feel like everyone can tell, they can't. It's not something someone needs to know unless you decide to tell them, and I don't even think a potential sexual partner needs to know, tbh. At your age, as much as it's getting to you though, is I think possibly a sign that issues like depression are significant factors. I'm so sorry, it all totally sucks. 3. Psionican says, I relate to feeling like a teenager, even though I'm a grown-ass woman. It's more so I'm afraid of intimacy and the vulnerability that comes with sex. I rather just masturbate alone for the rest of my life than have someone see my ugly body and be grossed out by me. r/ForeverAloneWomen. Chris by Hikrami says, what's the point of it all? It's also annoying. I can't do anything without being bombarded by women talking about men. I open TikTok and the first video I see is this local cake shop advertising this deal they have going on. I open up the comments and the third one I see is me, and my man drove 3 hours to try it. No feedback on how the pastries were or anything, but just had to let people know that her man drove her 3 hours for it. Cool. I switched apps cause I wanted to distract myself, so I come on here. There's this trending question in one of my suggested communities that ask what gendered secrets men and women keep from each other. It piqued my interest, so I clicked on it. The first couple or so I thought were funny cause they were pertaining to women's issues during their period. I scroll some more, and the 4th/5th one down is this woman commented about how men actually catch feelings really hard and are really romantic, and proceeded to brag about something her husband did, per usual. People were commenting on her thread, agreeing, but I only read one of the other replies and it was, Another married woman bragging about something her husband did as well. I'm assuming the other replies were in the same vein. But bro, like, the question is literally asking men and women to speak on things the other might not know about each other, and this woman wants to go and hijack the comments and make it about her. It would have meant something if it had come from a man, but people will use literally any excuse to flaunt their relationship. All I'm saying is these women would be ed if their online activity was tracked and people were able to see the comments they left on other social media platforms or even on here in times of distress etc. They've more than likely spouted out some I hate men rhetoric somewhere, but as soon as it comes time to brag about something regarding their man, then they go balls deep. Or just mention them unnecessarily, like in the first instance I mentioned. It's just so hypocritical. Whether your perception of me is that I'm bitter or not from this post does not change the fact that what I said is true. I've just been feeling shittier than usual about being single lately, and it's been very frustrating for me to deal with. I also think that it's been worse for me this past week cause I think I'm so lonely now that my brain is making me latch onto celebrity crushes, which is really out of the ordinary for me. No offense to anyone else that has them, but like, I'm not the type of person to get infatuated with people I know I'll never meet, and realistically even if I do meet them it's not like anything will come of it. I know I need hobbies and things to do with my day, but it still won't replace the very human desire to want romance. I just wish I hadn't been born sometimes if my love life was gonna be like this and I was gonna get nothing. It's so hard as a woman when it's thrown in your face every single day how your situation is not the norm for other women. Even if it wasn't online, I still get it from women in IRL interactions, so it doesn't matter. It's just a topic I'll never be able to relate to. Venting about this helped immensely. I'm so glad I have you ladies who understand what I'm going through. Old boy 994 says, I've pretty much given up at this point. I don't even do dating, and it wouldn't be for someone like me anyways, because it's mostly guys trying to do hookups, and I'm repulsed by hookups. They're an absolute no for me. I'll never meet a guy organically IRL, because I never have men even coming up to me and talking to me. I'm invisible to them, always been. They've made it perfectly clear that I'm off-putting and unattractive to them. My attempts of approaching them have been met with hostility, condescension, aggression and pure rejection right off the bat. No reason for me to put myself through torture and humiliation like that anymore. I have zero options in terms of a relationship, and I don't see my situation changing. Every and each passing day I feel more hopeless. Claudia from Liberty says, I hardly pay attention to those, but most of my interests are artistic, so I hardly get those anyways. I do see the occasional reel where some girl says something like, ugh, I hate getting flowers and messages from so many guys, I'm more interested in something from those Macup stores or those $70 cups, like lol really? Sounds like an indirect way of humble bragging. And if it really bothers her, I hope she just waits until she's in her middle age lol. We'll see how bothered she'll be then. To Firepool Candidate says, yeah. I hate when they constantly have to mention their boyfriend like the post could be about onions. Yet, they have to say my boyfriend loves to buy me onions. Like they make sure to include them when the conversation isn't about partners. Like WTF man, they can't even talk without mentioning their boyfriends/husbands. To Firepool Candidate says, I know the only other time it's brought up is by men, when they want to let you know they are taken or not interested. It seems women bring it up to flex or show off that they are attractive enough to get a man. Also, I think lots of women bond over romantic relationships in girlfriends groups. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.